but then his perspective is changed and totally transformed by the end of the show. But of course, filming in Malaysia, you always come to calendar. It's not always compliant. We go through December and January, which is monsoon season. But all in all, given the short runway of just 2 months, being able to see everything that we saw really goes to show how much we really have in Singapore.
Fascinating. So back to the issue of biodiversity, how significant is this for a country like Singapore, and what would be the significant impact if more species start to go extinct?
Well, I think essentially the truth is that we need them more than they need us. So let's say food security, for example. Insects are important pollinators. They pollinate our food crops, fruits, vegetables. So things like avocados, apples, without insects, we don't have them. But that's not all, over centuries we took to nature for answers. So the bullet train design, for example, was inspired by the kingfisher's feet. A 500-year-old worm found in our forest can actually compete the solution to the world's plastic problems. And that's the thing. There's so much that is undiscovered. I think scientists estimate that at least 7 million species are still waiting to be found. So there's so much we don't know, and we don't fully understand their impact. So there's a lot at stake if we lose them. Yeah.
Sushan, I understand you also found out more about what...
Magandang gabi po, Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. 7,103 new cases.
Yan na po ang pinakamataas sa bilang ng bagong kaso ng COVID-19 na naitala sa Pilipinas mula na magsimula ang pandemic. Sa kabuuan, 648,066 na ang mga tinamaan ng sakit.
Pinakamataas din yan sa loob ng nakalipas na mahigit kalahating taon. Ang mga aktibong kaso ay ganito na po, 73,200 at 73,264.
Record high rate. Ang naitalang positivity rate o yung porsyento ng mga nagpo-positibo sa mga tinetest. 15% na yan ngayon. Pinakamataas simula na maglabas ng ganyang datos ang DOH noong October 26.
Sa bilang ng mga nakarecover, 390 naman ang nadagdag, kaya 561,902 na ang lahat ng gumaling sa sakit. 12,900 ang mga namatay matapos madagdagan ng 13 ngayong araw. Ayon sa DOH, 5 laboratorio pa ang hindi nakapagsumite ng kanilang datos. Sa pag-aaral ng GMA News Research, batay sa DOH data drop, 18 lugar na sa bansa ang nakapagtala ng mahigit 100 bagong kaso kahapon. At sa ikapitong sunod na araw, Quezon City pa rin ang nangunguna.
At sa Western Pacific Region, Pilipinas pa rin ang may pinakamaraming bagong kaso, pinakamaraming kawuwang bilang ng mga kaso at pinakamaraming mga nasawi. Hindi pa kasama dyan ang datos para sa araw na ito.
Skills to breed queen bees commercially. Every hive requires one to survive. Australia is among the world's top honey producing countries, generating more than 20,000 tonnes a year. The insects are also crucial to pollinating fruit and nut trees. And apiarists can't keep up with demand.
We still have a shortage of about 20,000 hives for the last year. So for that purpose, we need to breed queen. That can generate a very strong hive for the pollination purpose.
Last summer's bushfires in eastern Australia destroyed or damaged an estimated 200,000 beehives. Just a year earlier, beekeepers lost 1 in 5 hives to pests and diseases. Without enough hives to pollinate farms, there are worrying consequences for farmers. especially in the almond industry, which generates more than $500 million in exports, and production is rapidly expanding.
They're requiring more and more beehives. Really interesting. Almond and cherries are 100% dependent on bee pollination, so without them we have neither any almonds nor cherries.
Australia has nearly 30,000 registered beekeepers. For most of them, it's a hobby. Matt Lumalasi became interested in beekeeping in his backyard 10 years ago. Now he's looking after 140 beehives spread across city rooftops and balconies. What was once a weekend project is now a mission to educate others about their importance to food security and the environment.
We are one of the last safe havens for bees in the world.
But many apiarists worry it won't stay that way.
Honeybees contribute more than $10 billion a year to Australia's economy and are responsible for pollinating a third of agriculture. But the number of queen bee breeders has steadily declined over the years because it's becoming more difficult and expensive to protect hives from threats such as climate change and pests.
At the top of the list of threats is the varroa mite, which destroys colonies. Australia's strict biosecurity laws have prevented varroa mites from entering the country, but researchers fear it's only a matter of time before they arrive. In the face of these challenges, apiarist associations across the country are pushing to attract and train the next generation of commercial beekeepers and breeders to replace their ageing workforce. It'll offer hope that this tiny insect and the many livelihoods that rely on it can thrive in the years to come.
The safety of the people of Myanmar. He adds he will be calling the Sultan of Brunei to request bilateral talks. Brunei currently holds the chairmanship of the 10-nation bloc. The lawmakers ousted by the military government in Myanmar are now also looking for ways to hold to account those who are responsible for the violence after the coup last month. Myanmar's ambassador to the United Nations said one option being considered is to seek an investigation by the International Criminal Court, even though the country is not a safe party or to the ICC. Myanmar security forces have killed 8 people. They had opened fire during a confrontation in the central town of Al-Mai. 7 were killed on site. The other died after being taken to hospital. Security forces also used tear gas to disperse people. Several protest leaders were arrested. According to an independent tally, the death toll among protesters since the coup has surpassed 200. Protesters continue to turn out in several towns, despite increasingly violent tactics used by the military and police. People were also seen rallying in the second largest city of Mandalay. While in Yangon, police have forced people to clear the demonstrators' barricades. The US and China traded bombs in Alaska, where they held the first high-level talks between the Biden administration and Beijing. The Chinese Foreign Ministry accused the US of exceeding time in its opening remarks and making unreasonable accusations that were not in line with diplomatic protocol.
所以双方从一开始在开场白的时候就充满了火药味和戏剧色彩，这不是中方的施工。
The two sides are clearly far apart on their issues of trade, territorial disputes, and human rights. Delegation officials told broadcaster CCTV that the Chinese came with sincerity to the talks, but the US side started speaking first and severely exceeded the time allocated for their opening remarks. They also made unreasonable attacks and accusations of Chinese domestic and foreign policies and provoked quarrels, one official reportedly said. CNN's Liu Xiong with more on the